Welcome, my sisters and brothers, to the Law of One study channel, conscious channeling of LL research. And now we should continue our discussion from a Wanderer's Handbook. Our topic is catalyst and experience. We are beginning to fill in this sketch of ourselves and our place in the evolving universe. We have located ourselves within this incarnation, our present opportunity for work in accelerating the pace of our spiritual evolution. We can see the outworking of karma in the challenges that come to us in life. These challenges always have themes. For each of us, the themes may differ somewhat. Often there is the incarnational lesson of learning to offer love unconditionally, to give without expectation of return. An incarnational lesson of my own that I have seen cyclically repeated is in relationships throughout my life, first with my parents, then with mates and more distant family members. My parents and the mates who took me for granted are gone, and my present mate is without any significant error that I can see, but I do still have those relationships where I am taken for granted. The challenge is much easier for me now because I identified it decades ago. I have more and more consciously come to see it arise when it happens. I no longer fight it. I acknowledge it and tune my instrument just as I do for channeling when I am about to put myself in that situation. I am still blindsided once in a while, but not as often and not as painfully. Those of QO say that the challenge and friction come from emotion, desire, or bias. The stronger the emotional bias, the more intensity there is noted within the learning opportunity. That is to say, the greater the emotion, the greater the bias, and the more obvious the lesson which is being presented to the seeker, for there is but one response to any catalyst within your illusion that reflects a balanced point of view. That response, as you know well, is love and compassion. When any other emotion is noted within the mind-body-spirit complex of the self, then the seeker may assume there is catalyst there to be processed in order that a balancing may occur. We can almost count on the fact that we have chosen more incarnational lessons than the minimum requirements for a lifetime. It all looks so much easier when we were outside of the veil. Now, we all know how the eyes can be larger than the stomach, how that incarnational plate may have been loaded generously. Nevertheless, it is to be remembered that there is nothing intrinsically mischievous or wicked about the lessons that fly before you in the gale of experience as you experience it. No matter how fierce the winds and storms may seem, they are as you yourself wish them to be in terms of that which was inevitably going to be dealt with as you lived through this incarnational time. It's never ending because it is by nature wearingly constant. For each catalyst, each experience, each event within your illusion has the ability to temper the heart of the seeker, shall we say, the will of the seeker, the faith of the seeker. There is within frustration an inevitable rededication of the self to seeking, for the temptation is to stop, to quit, to rest, to have done with it. And so the advice is to take it slow and easy. As you receive your catalyst, bless it and allow yourself to open to receive it with the most love of which you are capable in a stable manner. Do not move yourself beyond that which you can do without damage to yourself. Do not ask that which you are not ready for yourself, but rather be sensitive to the opportunities that these negative feelings, so called, of guilt bring rise to. It seems incredible in a way that the everyday experience we have is ample to offer us the catalysts we need for the most advanced spiritual learning and realization, but it is so. Using catalysts is something the seeker cannot avoid. This illusion of yours is created to make evasion of catalysts impossible and full use of catalysts improbable. This illusion leans upon imperfection and forces the mind and the emotions to gaze at that which is not perfect in appearance. This false worldview is designed to be that backdrop against which the common life, with its suffering, may become a life incandescent with the seeker's joy, full acceptance, and eagerness to pursue the processes of change. From our beginnings within incarnation as children, we gradually began to become aware of the cyclical nature of those themes of catalysts, which we see again and again throughout the life. You cannot truly make a mistake, for whatever road upon which you turn, you shall meet your catalyst again and again, until you realize it, love it, forgive it, and move beyond it. You are queens and kings, rulers of yourselves, all of you royal. Remember who you are. Remember your birthright, and remember that you live in a spiritual democracy where each entity is precisely, mathematically equal. The differences within the illusion come from your use of will through faith. Unfortunately, Catalyst still takes us by surprise quite often. All that you perceive is perceived as catalysts unconsciously by the, shall we say, time that the mind begins its appreciation of catalysts. That catalyst has been filtered through the veil, and in some cases much is veiled in the most apparently clear perception. We can then plan on finding ourselves in the middle of catalysts, recognizing it and desiring to work on it. Those of QO suggest that we remember how catalyst works when we find ourselves in the midst of it. When you can win through in a confused situation to a remembrance, a memory of the way catalyst works, of the process in which you are taking part, you will be more able to move smoothly, gracefully, and cooperatively into doing the work at hand, without condemnation of self or of others, forgiving completely that which this destiny of experience confers upon each and every sentient citizen of eternity. QO suggests that we not even try to avoid it. The one who believes that by challenging the situation, he will change his experience is following a false belief, for those lessons which each came to learn are for each, shall we say, a list of priorities. When catalyst comes to a seeker, it is a sure thing that there is a lesson connected with the learning of the nature of love, which working through the catalyst will benefit so that you may become richer in experience and more conscious with the consciousness of love. I think a synonym for catalyst might be suffering. The suffering, the questioning, the doubting, the pain and agony of all that you experience is, for one thing, to hollow you and to focus that emptiness so that it is ready to receive. And yet this suffering is a path which points its own way out. The path of sorrow, then, is that path which nearly all experience nearly all the time within incarnation. Misery, anger, grief, all the uncomfortable emotional and mental states create a necessity for seeking some means of relief. The limitations are there because the nature of the choice is such that the surface illusion can be seen by the seeker to be an illusion, and it is through the growing discomfort of catalysts, of loss and limitation, that the wayward spirit is finally alert to the need for discipline. The partner of catalyst is experience. If catalyst is what we walk into unawares, experience is what we receive from the harvest of that catalyst, plus the work we do in shaping our response to that catalyst. As we go, we find that Dawn's 180-degree rule truly serves. What seems bad is good. As the seeker begins to gain experience, it discovers that the worldly sight, excellent as it is for the things of the physical universe, can tell lies if the physical sight is taken to equal spiritual sight as well. The spiritual self will look at the situation where all the things of the world are had in plenty and be able to see those imbalances, lacks, and hungers that lie just below the surface of the illusion and that greatly change the truth that is seen. The spiritual self sees the riches of the world as poverty and sees the naked and vulnerable spirit in all its poverty as riches. To the spiritual eye, the concepts such as death, limitation, emergency, catastrophe, fear, and terror are not necessarily bad things. The riches for the spiritual self lie in every circumstance. Those perceived as negative perhaps more than those perceived as positive by the physical self. This reversal of attitude and embrace of the suffering of processing catalysts delivers to the seeker her or his own inner child again. Thus, your experiences become a part of you, and as you progress in your journey of seeking, you will find that this blending of experience occurs most easily when there is as little resistance and as great vulnerability to it as you can stably withstand and accept within your being. It is not easy to place oneself within the swirling waters of change, for it is easy to believe that one may drown or be washed ashore in a distant location unfamiliar to the present self. However, we can assure each of you that you have placed within your incarnational patterns these opportunities for rebirth of this childlike self that laughs with glee at all catalysts that it perceives, looking at the world as a place in which there is endless opportunity for experience and excitement. To this childlike self, experience brings joy and love. Why rejoice? Why give thanks and praise? Because the greatest energy of all is always the same. Love is always the overmastering power and creator. No matter what the experience, praise, joy, and thanks are appropriate. When one can, even for a moment, see and feel the truth of the turning to love about all things, then shall healing truly multiply. One way in which we are less skillful in working with catalysts is in repressing our pain mentally. This can lead to illness. Questioner: I will make a statement then of my understanding and ask if I am correct. There is what I would call physical catalyst operating at all times upon the entities in third density. It is a catalyst which acts through what we call pain and emotion. Is the primary reason for the weakening of the physical body and the elimination of body hair, etc., so that this catalyst would act more strongly upon the mind and therefore create the evolutionary process? I am Ra. This is not entirely correct, although closely associated with the distortions of our understanding. Consider, if you will, the tree, for instance. It is self-sufficient. Consider, if you will, the third density entity. It is self-sufficient only through difficulty and deprivation. It is difficult to learn alone, for there is a built-in handicap. At one, the great virtue and the great handicap of third density. That is the rational, intuitive mind. Thus, the weakening of the physical vehicle, as you call it, was designed to distort entities towards a predisposition to deal with each other. Thus, the lessons which approach a knowing of love can be begun. This catalyst, then, is shared between peoples as an important part of each self's development, as well as the experiences of the self in solitude, and the synthesis of all experience through meditation. The quickest way to learn is to deal with other selves. This is a much greater catalyst than dealing with the self. Dealing with the self without other selves is akin to living without what you would call mirrors. Thus, the self cannot see the fruits of its beingness. Thus, each may aid each by reflection. This is also a primary reason for the weakening of the physical vehicle, as you call the physical complex. Kathy rejoices in her free will as she sets her sights on working on catalysts through relationships. Some say we choose our course before entering a given lifetime, the people to parent us, the circumstances of our birth, the people we will share our life with this go around. set up by our higher selves as we choose to enter the world for a given lesson. But still, there is choice to create day to day the reality that is our life experience. I cannot think of a greater gift than this free will. Relationships are a primary teacher to us in offering us grist for the mill. Those things which most distress you about others are those things which are the reflection of yourself. And in those things you may see a distorted version of that which is occurring within you. Thus, each relationship is like a mirror in time that moves with you along that river, showing to you your own face in a biased manner, which may provide catalysts so that you may work upon the self. It may be easily seen, then, that good friends and mates are a prize indeed, for they will be working on their own catalysts and experience in ways that we can understand and share. It is well upon such a journey to travel with a companion of similar desire that wishes, above all else, with you to make this journey of seeking, of learning, and of service. For those who are of a like mind will far more surely find those clues within the catalysts that point the direction for the next step. And those who travel together will experience their catalysts and processing of same in a unique fashion, with one utilizing the intensity of experience at a time, perhaps, when the other has less intensity, so that there might be assistance given from one to another. One last bit of advice: just be ourselves. That which is most helpful to an entity in utilizing the catalysts of the daily round of activities is the spontaneous and unrehearsed thought, word, or deed, which is carried out to its logical or appropriate conclusion, then reflected upon in a conscious fashion and utilized within the meditative state, so that all biases that are not deemed consonant with the highest ideals of the seeker might be noted and marked for future reference, so that the lesson which is embodied might be clarified and a certain set of actions might be associated with that lesson. Life will put our nose to the grindstone of learning again and again, offering us the catalyst that will snag our attention and give us work to do, in transmuting raw catalysts into burnished experience. This is archetypical work. This sifting of incoming data to find the gems of truth and life. It is work we will be involved in with each day of our lives, as awakened spirits using third density to our utmost ability. I wish each of us refreshed spirits and hungry appetites for chewing it all up. This planet is a great place, but we are ready to move on, and this is the way towards more pleasant lessons. Right through the thick of things.